En el sentido común y en la realidad, sabemos que no se puede contentar a todos. Y por eso vemos que hay un consenso progre por un lado y por otro lado está Vox. Por eso nosotros sí nos atrevemos a decir o ellos o nosotros, o lo de siempre o algo nuevo, o el consenso progre o Vox, o la división autonómica o la unidad nacional, o la tiranía izquierdista o la libertad, o los privilegios autonómicos o la igualdad, o el estado de bienestar de los políticos, de los partidos, de los sindicatos y de las ONGs, o el estado de bienestar de los españoles, de la gente corriente y de la España que madruga, o el estado de las autonomías o las pensiones, o los españoles primero o los inmigrantes ilegales, o los salarios dignos para nuestros policías, para nuestros guardias, o piscinas para los presos y gimnasios en las cárceles, o pensiones dignas para las viudas, o paguitas para los menas, o la repoblación del mundo rural, o la competencia desleal con productos extracomunitarios que hunden el campo en España, o los partidos corrompidos de siempre, o alternativas honradas, decentes y patrióticas, o nuestras tradiciones, o la fiesta del Cordero, o la Europa multicultural, o la Europa orgullosa de las raíces cristianas, o nuestra bandera mancillada, pisoteada y escupida, o nuestra bandera ondeando con orgullo. Queremos elegir, claro que decimos, o nosotros o ellos.
The 2030 agenda is, to put it simply, our plan.
Han entrado 10.000 marroquíes en el día de hoy y otros 10.000 previstos de entrada.
Green economy, blah blah blah, net zero by 2050, blah blah blah, net zero, blah blah blah, climate neutral, blah blah blah.
Educación, y hace tiempo que dice que hay que educar en estas ideas de igualdad y tolerancia.
Tú que te llamas Manuel, desde ahora te llamarás Verónica. Siéntete libre.
O sea que os jodéis, seguiré definiendo a vuestras hijas y no podéis hacer nada para impedirlo.
Nosotros hemos venido a representar a una mayoría patriótica. El futuro nos pertenece a nosotros, a los patriotas, no a los globalistas ni a los separatistas. Y por eso decimos, España siempre, ¡viva España!
Bienvenidos al Palacio de Vistalegre.
Welcome to the Vistalegre Palace. Welcome to Viva 24. Let's welcome a seminal figure in the defense of freedom, a hero for everyone here today, the founder of VOX, the best of all of us. Let's welcome José Antonio Ortega Lara. José Antonio Ortega Lara. Good morning. Can you hear me well? Good morning. Welcome to Viva 24. I hope you enjoy this very much. And to be brief, let me say two things. Firstly, in these times, VOX is more needed than ever. We need to keep working to put together proposals, to improve our program. It's all about strengthening what we've done well, and there are many things, and also to recognize that we've done some things wrong, and we need to correct them so that this doesn't happen again. We need to be humble for the good and for the bad. Secondly, discreet work and firm commitment. We always said we are a tool at the service of Spaniards and at the service of Spain. These are two main traits of our party. As nepotists, corrupt people, coup plotters, separatists, terrorists, and unloyal people, we have enough people in Spain. We are, and we must be different to all of them. Discreet work, also in order to reverse this process of moral and institutional degradation. But this process requires a shift in mentality for many Spaniards, and let me talk about young people, to encourage them. You must be the builders of your own future. Don't leave it in the hands of the state. This state invades your conscience and your morale. It manipulates your mind and that of your children. So, against any message, please question the message, filter it out through common sense, so that you can choose what is best for you. Do it this way to preserve your identity, your freedom, and your dignity as people. Those who are carried away will become puppets of some rulers. who have no soul. Dear youngsters, be clever to be yourselves and not what other people want you to be. And finally, from what you hear outside, believe half and half of it, and that would be even too much. And with one eye on the clock, let's enjoy this day of coexistence. Load your batteries for the next upcoming European elections. We need to be there with our soul and our heart. And what's most important today, at the end of the day, please come back healthy to your house, to your families. Thank you for your kind attention. Have a nice day. From the US, we have one of the main foundations of the Heritage Foundation, the main foundation of the conservative world in North America, a referential institution for freedom fighters and fighters for democracy across the globe. Roger Severino.
Queridos amigos, vengo desde Estados Unidos con un mensaje urgente.
Dear friends, I come from the US with an urgent message. What is happened to Trump in New York may happen in Madrid, in Paris, in London. It can happen to me, to you. I'm talking about the leftists who corrupt the law in order to interfere with democracy and silence the voice of the people. They can't convince millions of people to vote for their stupid agendas. The left-handed try to convince 11 members of a jury of an existent crime, a crime that doesn't exist. They want to incarcerate their opposition. That was unthinkable 5 years ago. That is our current reality. But it's not the only warning I have for you. Today, universities in the US see violence and anti-Semitism, which is fostered by radical ideology, seeing attackers as victims, and one of the most oppressed groups in the history as the oppressors. Those same young people have been bombarded with the culture of a system telling them to explore all their sexual desires when they are 10 years of age. That abortion doesn't equal killing babies, it's rather healthcare. And they feel uncomfortable with their own sex, with their own gender, as they were born in the wrong body. And then with surgery, you can solve that issue. But I'm here to tell you that God does not make mistakes. Our Western common civilization is at the risk of disappearing as we've forgotten about God, Christ. But He is still with us, even in these dark days. We need to have faith in our Western heritage, received over 3,000 years of faith, reason, rule of law, and family. Europe and the US have lost faith in the West. We've forgotten about passing on our culture to our children, and we don't have children anymore. In most Western countries, unfortunately, more people die that are born. If we let this go on, this will be the triumph of the left, who sees human beings as a further source of carbon pollution.
In the
80s, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher restored national pride, making socialism recede, and families started growing again. More recently, President Trump built a new coalition, a conservative coalition with safe borders. No globalist elites trying to control everything you buy, everything you eat, everything you say, and everything you think.
I
had the honor to serve for 4 years to Mr. Trump. I saw how he defended forgotten workers from the challenge of the woke elites in businesses, in technologies, in universities. Their efforts of deregulation led to economic prosperity, which was unprecedented in a full generation. He closed the DEI programs. But it was when we were just about to restore the greatness of America, his efforts were interrupted. I hope that in a few months' time, Trump will be back to finish what he started. My parents came to the US from Colombia, seeking a better life, and they achieved it. But it's not just material security that is important, also spiritual security is important. All in all, I want to share with you the Western heritage and to pass it on to our children and to their children. But the only way to ensure this double vision is by fighting for it together, united. Let's go. Long live the US, long live Spain.
Cada año a los principales dirigentes conservadores del mundo.
One of the main conservative leaders of the world in this meeting, that is a showcase example of meeting against socialist policies. Today, we have the president of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp, and the communication director during the Trump's presidency, Mercedes Schlapp.
Good afternoon, Spain. It's supposed to be ladies first, but I'm going to save the best for last, okay? Santiago, thank you for having us here in Spain. You told us it was worth the trip, and it sure is. What an amazing... What an amazing time to be alive. What an amazing time to be in this fight for freedom. What an amazing time in America to stand for everything that makes America great. You know, Mercy and I have a message from America. Stop watching CNN. Stop reading the newspaper from America. Just stop, because we have a very important thing to tell you. In America, vamos a ganar. And in America, we're going to win because Donald Trump is going to be our president again. Literally days, literally months from today, Americans will stand up because they've been lied to. The American people have been lied to by the same people that are lying to you here in Spain. They've told you that your families are broken and unimportant. They've told you that your children are better off if they're raised by the government. They've told you that your faith in God is a misplaced notion of olden times. The reason why America will win and the reason why Donald Trump will be the president of the United States again is because we reaffirm at this moment our faith in God, our belief in His truth. We honor all the life that He gives us, and we cherish our own individual life, and we thank Him that He has put us in this fight for freedom, this fight for civilization, this fight for our future. And one of the most important parts of that fight is that all of us stand together, that we unify conservatives, people who believe in our traditions, people of faith. We're not going to let George Soros or Joe Biden or whoever divide us. Come on. You know, in America, they call Joe Biden Mr. Big. I say it's time to call him Mr. Yesterday. You agree? And what a shame. It's shameful that in the United States of America, this wonderful country, it's shameful that the Democratic Party and the left have embraced Hamas over Israel. It's shameful. What an honor it is for us to be here today with the minister from Israel. We honor Prime Minister Netanyahu's courage and bravery in the face of this war. You know, the conservatives in America, we're the peace lovers. You know, we learned long ago that when we're strong and we build up our military and we stand with our friends, you actually don't have to use your military that much because they fear it. And when you have a president who people fear because they know he will stand up for what is right and not just pick fights for the sake of it, all of us are better off. It's time for us all to embrace this idea It is time for us to embrace the idea that the stereotypes that come from the media, that come from social media, that come from the oligarchs, that come from Brussels, that come from the United Nations, that come from the WHO, that come from these phony but very powerful globalist institutions. It's time for us to throw away the lies they say about conservatives, about people who believe in freedom. And our message from America is very simple. Hands off our kids, hands off our families, hands off our freedoms, and you will not be able to cheat, lie, and steal your way into power. And I apologize for speaking to you in English, but I promised you the best was yet to come. Mercedes, take it from here.
Bueno, gracias, Mateo. Yo le digo a Matt, Mateo.
Matt. I call him Mateo. Long live Spain. Long live the USA. Long live Israel.
Te digo, Mateo.
Mateo.
Santiago y VOX.
Santiago. VOX. They are incredible. Long live VOX.
Porque esto yo me siento primero
Because
que es como un rally del presidente Trump.
Like a rally, like if I were in the rally of President Trump, because the energy here is incredible, unbelievable.
Te digo que nosotros hacemos CPAC en Japón, en Australia, en Hungría.
We've gone to Australia, Hungary, Israel, we've gone to Brazil, and I think it would be a good place for CPAC together with VOX.
Bueno, te digo, mi madre, María Teresa Abello, nació en un pueblecito
she was born
en Villanueva, en Asturias.
In Asturias, in Villanueva.
Y es un honor estar con ustedes.
It is an honor to be here with you because you are part of my history, of my family.
Y había una gran mujer,
There was a great woman, Josefa from Villanueva. She had 8 children, and my grandmother, she went without a mother when she was 2, and Josefa adopted my mother when she was 2. So my mother was brought up in such a special family, a family devoted to God, devoted to their community, a family devoted to their homeland. And I feel greatly inspired by Josefa, because the most difficult moments, because my grandmother was a single mother at that time, and Josefa was next to her. She brought up my mother, and thanks to that family, thanks to the Spaniards, to be with my family, next to my family, and support my family. And I myself, as Josefa, I am a Catholic. I am the mother of 5 daughters. And as we know, I am devoted to protect our freedoms, because we are all responsible for fighting and protecting our freedoms, fight and protect our families. That is our priority. And we need to end up with these leftists, these communists that wish to threaten our families and our freedoms. Pedro Sanchez and Joe Biden, they want Joe Biden and Pedro Sanchez have to go on holidays for a very long time. This is the time. You have incredible leaders with Ignacio and Santiago. You can't be fearful. You have to stand up. You cannot bend. You have to fight, because right now they want to destroy our civilization. They want to destroy our religion. They want to ensure that we are afraid, but we can't be afraid. And this is what President Trump has taught us. We need to fight, we need to struggle, we need to speak the truth, because there is one truth. And as we know, the last battle will be who will protect the family, who will win and protect the family. That's the battle. And they wanted to reach out to our children to divide us. So this is the right time, because God gives us this time, so you all use your talent, your intelligence. We all need to get together, because this battle is happening in all nations. And from Mateo and myself, I can say that we are going to continue fighting in the United States to ensure that President Trump to win in November. And you've seen the miracle that is happening here in Spain. In just 5 years, VOX continues to grow. And as a daughter of a political prisoner, my father fought the communists in Cuba. He was in prison for 7 years. And when you see countries like Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua with their communism, we cannot allow these communists to win. We need to make sure that we do everything we can for our freedom. Freedom for Cuba, freedom for Venezuela, freedom for Nicaragua, freedom for Colombia, and freedom for Spain. God bless you all. Thank you.
Un defensor de la libertad, de la familia y de la vida.
A defender of freedom, family and life, candidate to the presidential elections in 2021, founder of the Republican Party in Chile. With you, José Antonio Kast.
Muy buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. You can't imagine how moved I feel to be here in this event with so much energy, such a strong will, such a strong passion and work. I want to greet my hosts in VOX that have invited me to this wonderful meeting, so impressive. Greet our host of us all, the president of VOX, the Secretary General Ignacio Garriga, as well as the parliamentaries of VOX, and also the Foundation Disenso, as well as the Madrid Forum that helps us in our fight on the other side of the Atlantic. Margarita, I greet you warmly, as well as all those who have been aggregated from different countries. It's an honor and privilege to share this space with you and be able to address you. But if you do not fit in a Cinquecento, they told Santiago 10 years ago. It was very inspiring to us all. With a loudspeaker, you stood up in Sevilla defending the principles of freedom. Yes. There weren't as many as we are present here today. Today, 10 years later, there are thousands here in the Vistalegre Palace. Millions are watching us, not only in Spain, but throughout the world through the media. Thousands of affiliates in Spain, people that vote VOX in the different elections. Oh, today you do not fit in a Cinquecento. Obviously, you need hundreds of thousands of Cinquecentos, so small cars, and everything with a loudspeaker like this one. Maybe somewhat bigger. And there was someone that wasn't in the picture that held this loudspeaker while Santiago talked to the crowd, because this is a symbol of courage and coherence. It is a symbol of leadership, political challenge, rebellion against this consensus that wanted to be imposed, because thanks to this loudspeaker, they gave voice to millions of Spaniards and hope to those who had lost it, gave strength to those who fight day by day and sometimes feel they cannot fight any longer. But this loudspeaker hasn't just been an instrument to give back hope to Spaniards here, but thanks to VOX, thanks to the Madrid Forum, thanks to the Disenso Foundation, they have given hope and strength to many countries in the world, and particularly those who are on the other side of the Atlantic. We say Latin America, but really it is Hispanic America. Let's say the word. If we've been successful in Chile, it's also thanks to the good friends like you and the huge network that VOX has promoted throughout the world. I had grass in this small office where Santiago and some of you were, and they welcomed us as if we were brothers, and this filled us with hope, because we are not alone, because we are accompanied in the other side of the world. So, as we felt accompanied, we can also say that Javier Milei, the president today of Argentina, feels also accompanied, befriended by Vox and Santiago, because he can stand here speaking up, and he could speak up when he wasn't well known. And from this stage, he surprised us all with his strength and his clear cry and shout of freedom, damn it. So, we thank from Chile, and Javier will thank you from Argentina, another great friend of Vox, Giorgia Meloni, thanks you also, has many things to thank you, because Vox has supported many movements when we were small, when no one knew us, and together we are much more. Look what has happened in Italy, look what has happened in Argentina, and we'll see what the future stores for us, because the future is going to be good. Thanks for leading the fight for freedom and family in many parts of the world. Our successes are your successes. Thank you very much. And I go back to the loudspeaker. Also from Mexico, Verástegui is there. Thanks, Vox. A round of applause for Eduardo Verástegui in his fight for freedom for the family, for childhood. As I was saying, this loudspeaker was bigger, yes, but has been useful to give voice to those who didn't have a voice and to amplify the voices of everyone. It has also been an instrument to stop the left in its negative ideology here in Spain, and we say it loud and clear. The failure of Podemos in Spain wouldn't have been possible without Vox, without Santiago Abascal, without all of you. The failure of Podemos is due to the fight of millions, the fight for freedom to stop the most radical left. Some people just look at statistics because they can't see anything beyond, and they don't see the danger beyond these radical groups and the deep damage they can harm a country with. Today, Sanchez is in the government. Today he's the prime minister. Today. It has been a disastrous government for Spain, unable to stop illegal migration, to give security to our citizens, and to fight unemployment in Spain. In Chile, we say, out, 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 out. We'll go for him with perseverance and with determination and with the idea of freedom always in our minds.
Pero haber frenado el avance de Podemos y hoy tenerlos casi derrotados es un gran triunfo para
But having stopped Podemos, it's a triumph for freedom in Spain, as it would have been much worse the fate of Spain. And that was thanks to the bravery and the strength that Vox had by defending the ideas of freedom. In Chile, the Republican Party, which I founded, amongst others, had yielded really good electoral results. But 2 years ago, we were not able to beat the radical left. We will go after them. Those in power today are friends of Podemos. They are the partners of Pablo Iglesias, Irene Montero and Íñigo Errejón.
Son esos mismos izquierdistas que llegaron al poder.
They are the same left-handed who got to power by promising that hope would defeat fear. And the only thing that happened in Chile is that fear took over, doing away with any hope for progress and peace. The left destroys everything. Chile today is poorer, more unequal, more corrupt, and more unstable and unsafe than 2 years ago. And that is thanks to these so-called youngsters of the left, radical left, who have sped up the destruction of our homeland by implementing a failed policy damaging greatly our country. Today we can say that Gabriel Boric, president of Chile, has a more failed government that is only on par with the government of Salvador Allende. Salvador Allende. But let me tell you that in Chile we have a political transvestite now. In Hungary, I said we had a woke president, and this had a huge uproar. This will be even more scandalous. But it's true, a political transvestite that 2 years ago was out in the street insulting, abusing the military and the police force. And today, as a president bends down against the widows of policemen killed during his mandate, that is hypocrisy for you. And a political transvestite. Also, let me tell you, he is a political transvestite, as he used to foster open borders, inviting illegal immigrants to come to our country. And today, as president, he wants to have an iron fist and threatens illegal immigrants to be expelled. He's a political transvestite that promised that under his mandate, Chile would be the tomb of neoliberalism. And now, as president, he wants to lecture us on economic growth, employment and investment. Who can understand this guy? But do not be mistaken. This government that now is disguised as a police with a harsh language against immigration, as they sold their conviction to the market, hasn't changed anything at all. The radical left doesn't change, only takes another disguise and only transforms and becomes a transvestite politically. And today, they do it because they feel defeated. But as soon as they gather strength again, they will come back with the revolutionary ideas and with the refundational ideas to attack institutions, to validate violence as a method for political action. The President Boric, no Podemos in Spain, have been totally defeated. Neither has been defeated Kirchnerism in Argentina or Correa in Ecuador. That is, we must stand alert. Dear friends in Spain, it is time for hope, for real hope, for triumph over fear. It's time that the freedom of citizens prevails over the impunity of drug traffickers and criminals. It's time that progress defeats the stalemate and the poverty that comes with socialism and communism. It is time that common sense prevails over perverse ideology, trying to modify our essence. It is time that once and for all, Chile, but also Spain, get governments where we are the real alternative to the bad governments of the current left, so that we restore peace, freedom, hope of millions of fellow countrymen. And to conclude,
Termino diciéndole que espero estar aquí en 2 años.
Let me say that I hope to be here in 2 years' time for Europa Viva 2026. Not just as a president of Chile, but also together with Santiago Abascal as president of the government of Spain. Long live Chile, long live Spain. Thank you very much.
Fenómeno político del año en Europa.
And the great political phenomenon in Europe with his leadership, Portugal. Chega has become the third political force in Portugal. He was at Europa Viva 21, Europa Viva 22, and now he's here again from Portugal. The president of Chega, André Ventura.
Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. I will try to speak in Spanish. I will try to address you all in Spanish. Dear Santiago, dear VOX friends, it is a huge honor to be here. As they used to say, this is the school for leaders, for presidents. Many who were here on this stage, together with Santiago and the VOX friend, have had success in their countries and have restored freedom in their countries. I am Le Pen. And many others, if you will allow me, also the next Prime Minister of Portugal, yours truly.
Perdonadme de decir esto. Hoy en Portugal, pero también en España, estoy seguro que en toda Europa.
Today in Portugal, in Spain, in Europe, the newspapers say that the most radical right is meeting here in Madrid. The most radical right in the world and in Europe, but they are wrong. We are not the most radical right in Europe. We are the only ones who stood up to defend the freedom of Europe and the freedom of the whole world. We are the only ones who stood up against socialism, communism, globalism, which has poisoned the EU. If it's a radical right thing to love that all the countries of the EU are controlled and protected against illegal immigration, we must accept that every day. Why should we accept that we have more thousands of illegal immigrants to our borders without us being able to protect our countries? We are not against human rights, but we want strong borders in Europe, in Spain, across Europe, as Europe is ours. We are not radical right if we want our children are not poisoned by the gender ideology in school, in universities and all the institutions. And we are not radical right when we say to Europe that we will and we must protect those who suffer. But we won't be able to keep up with this massive arrival of Muslim illegal immigrants in Europe. We must say we won't do that. It's true. In Portugal, they say that Pedro Sánchez is a great president of Spain. And they also say that Pedro Sánchez with Antonio Costa will be the next presidents of the Council of Europe, of the European Council. And let me, you will allow me, Santiago, we have plenty of international press. From Madrid, we need to tell the press across the globe what we think of Pedro Sánchez and Pedro Costa. We must say what we think about them. Thank you. I had the feeling this would be your response. And it's important they know our socialists in power. We are not afraid of saying this. In Spain and Portugal, we have the most corrupt governments in Europe, and we shouldn't be afraid to say that clearly. They want to create cordon sanitaires against the only parties who stand for freedom, for future, for the countries, for the traditions. And they want to tell us the opposite, that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And we are not afraid to speak out and to say it clearly. They say that they will never govern with us, as the People's Party of Alberto Núñez Feijóo says in Spain. The People's Party say it in Spain, Social Democrats say it in Portugal. They do not understand. They do not understand that we want to govern, but not in Spain and Portugal and in France, in order to distribute money amongst friends or companies. We want to be in power to change our countries, to change our families, to change our economies, to change the countries we love. If the People's Party of the Social Democrats want to be in power to do what the socialists have done, then rule with the socialists, get together, rule together. They are the same. The People's Party, the Social Democrats and the Socialists, they are the same. They are all the same. Like mother, like daughter, that's how they are. In Spain and Portugal, we are fighting against the last beasts of socialism and communism which have undermined the EU. But we know that the right way is our way. When some people say we shouldn't love our countries because that is bad, that is nationalism, these countries, our countries say that we love Portugal, we love Spain, we love our country, and we are not afraid to say that. We are not afraid. This year, 2024, Many things will happen across the globe. We have the US elections. It would be very important that Trump became president in November 2024. This is not just about VOX or Sigue or the Republicans or other parties. This is about the future of humankind. What is at stake is not one or two political leaders, Santiago, André, Donald Trump, Marine Le Pen. What is at stake, it's the future of our civilization. And when we look forward, we will understand that they are suffocating justice. They are transforming justice into a weapon against political opponents in many areas in the world. They are changing institutions to say that they only can be in power. As Javier Milei says, we are the last hope for freedom. We are the force of freedom across the world. South America, US, Europe and elsewhere. And that is why our energy, and it's great to be here, feeling your energy. This energy that we feel must be elevated and sent across the globe. Santiago, I will be back when you invite me. But I hope, as our Chilean friend said, when I come back in a few years' time, I want to say that you are President of Spain. And I want to come back as Prime Minister of Portugal, so together we can say that we are waging the fight for our lives against corruption. And those who in Spain and Portugal have ruled not for the peoples but for their own will face justice, as our friends in Brazil say. Thieves belong in prisons. Thieves belong in prison. Long live Spain. Long live Portugal. Long live Santiago Abascal.
Hablar de Vox en Europa es hablar de él. Nadie ha puesto tantos debates sobre la mesa en Bruselas. Nadie ha defendido tanto y también los intereses de los españoles allí. Principal oposición a todos esos burócratas que
the interests of Spain in Brussels, facing all these bureaucrats that rule in Brussels. Jorge Buxade, welcome. Candidate to the European Parliament. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, Spain. I took off my hat so you can recognize me. Next 9th of June, it's at stake, the future of Spain and Europe. We decide whether Europe still will be in the hands of these fanatics, of these globalists that want to destroy agriculture, the lack of protection of our borders, the middle class in Europe, and bend to the caprices of these United Nations rapporteurs, or we will recover the control of our lives, our economy, and our freedom. Spanish people, Italian people, Polish people, French or Hungarians do not have any concern for the artificial creation of a European people. They are concerned about security in the streets, the creation of stable employment, the inflation of basic staples and food, the competitivity of our companies, illegal migration, avoiding the collapse of healthcare systems, or the future of our young people. And this is at risk because of the whims of a case in Brussels that wishes to control and sanction. I will put forward two proposals. The more Europe gets away from its roots and traditions, the farther we are from a democracy. There can't be a rule of law without selfish, if these selfish minorities want to impose their whims on us. Europe is bleeding based on a triple division. The regional nationalisms that want to break our countries, the gender separatism that wishes to break also the unity by giving privileges to those who self-perceive belonging to a different gender, and the Islamic separatism that wants to undermine the spiritual union of our countries, creating exclusion zones where the European law doesn't rule, there is no equality between men and women, and the authority of our police is not respected. And the second proposal, it is not true that Brussels institutions are a guarantee for our national democracies. On the contrary, our democracies, our national democracies are in danger due to the growing interference of this case of Brussels. If Orban's Hungary establishes an efficient control of illegal immigration to protect us all, they are breaking the rule of law. But if the Poland of Tusk in this coalition of popularists and communists takes by violence, by coercion, the media, this is democracy. This is the double standard that governs the elites in Brussels. The new globalist model imposed by the anti-elite of the Davos meetings and the 2030 agenda, where freedom and ownership are only for a few, tends to disappear the balance between the nation and its government. In this case, technological transnational corporations, lobbies, alliances between trade unions and NGOs, they take over the power of the people and the sovereignty of our states and nations, and depriving us from democracy. And so, for these 5 years, bureaucrats in Brussels have given Meta and Google the power to decide what we write on the media, depriving the judges of their function and imposing a censorship and control system. And in the meanwhile, corporation alliances, for example, this Bill Gates alliance on vaccines, want to take over our healthcare systems through this pandemic treaty of the WHO. We say, no, we don't want that, because we love freedom. We love our freedom in the media, everywhere. The elites that rule the European Union are cowards. weak. They are very cowards because they do not represent anyone in the true democratic sense of the word. They are not elected democratically. They are not transparent. They are not accountable to anyone. Who supervises the European Commission when they sign contracts with pharmaceutical companies without any transparency or control? A European Commission that gives out rules like the Green Deal without any consideration for the life of our farmers, or where the judges of the Court of Justice are directly appointed by the governments of member states, and then they give lessons of democracy to our states. And only thus we understand that the von der Leyen Commission has promoted and implemented a Green Deal in Europe that has destroyed the Spanish agriculture. We have applauded and voted the coalition of populists, socialists, liberals, and Greens that has been imposed like a machinery, a tyrannic machinery in Brussels. Up to 9th June, let's insist the Popular Party, the Socialist Party, vote in the same direction 90% of times in the European Parliament. Those who are here and are married, you do not agree 90% of the time with your wives, but they want to destroy our economy. An energy policy that dismantles nuclear plants, thermal plants promoted by populists and socialists everywhere in Europe, and that put at risk the energy sovereignty and independence of our nations, as well as their industrial capacity, a water policy that forgets the climatic differences and that condemns to thirst the south of Spain, but they are irrigating the fields of Morocco. It is an anti-European policy. An agricultural policy that wants to turn our farmers into gardeners and our soil into a barren soil while we are financing Moroccan agriculture. This is anti-European migration policy that has opened the borders and that forces us to live enclosed in our homes. Streets and squares that were peaceful yesterday, today they are battlefields. But they don't know that we are here, we are ready to fight and win our freedom in the streets in Brussels and anywhere we are, with the alibi of these European values that have emptied of content. The right to life has become the right to death, and the dignity of human beings has become an object of trade. But a healthy market economy knows that there are things that are very important that are not for sale because they are priceless. The elites smile while they call millions of people to go through our frontiers by assault while they are protected in their homes. Illegal migration is the most important business in the 21st century for the mafias, for NGOs that manage misery, poverty, and business for those who wish to have slaves ready to work in worse conditions than European workers. Power, and I will now conclude, of this ruling caste is huge. That's why we'll only be able to recover our democracy, our sovereignty, if we face them together. All patriotic, conservative parties have to be united in all that gets us together, the irreducible defense of mankind and family, the protection of frontiers to guarantee a space of security and liberty, a safe Europe with impermeable frontiers to crime, to illegal migration, drug trafficking, children trafficking, and deportation of those who have entered illegally Europe and fight radical Islamism that is threatening our own existence as European societies, to guarantee the free competition of our companies in a market where there is a level playing field for us all. And the principle of the origin priority to remove this Green Deal and exploit all sources of energy to ensure cheap, accessible, safe energy and the free Brussels from this diabolic Agenda 2030. From 10th June, a wide plan of reconstruction of the European economy to recover our industry and create stable employment and give a future to our young people, and ensuring them the opportunity to have a stable job, a house, a strong family, and a homeland that protects them. 9th June, they are going to hear us, because as we are showing in this historical day, the future belongs to patriots, to conservatives. The future is ours. Long live Spain. Long live Hispanity. Their agenda is our ruin.
Some
months ago, Israel suffered a brutal terrorist attack by Hamas. Today, they are fighting for their survival and freedom. Israel is a reference facing Islamic terrorism. It is a true privilege to have here the Minister of Diaspora in Israel and fighting anti-Semitism, Amichai Chikli.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. It is a great privilege to be with you here today. Thank you, Mr. Abascal, for the invitation for this unique event. As you know, these are tough times in Israel. We are currently under a combined Iranian attack, direct attack by missiles, cruise missiles and drones from Iran, attack from Hezbollah terrorist organizations launched without provocation on our northern border, and of course, the war against Hamas, which 8 months ago launched a brutal attack against Israel with over 1,000 civilians murdered, including entire families, men, women, elderly, and children. How can a human being be motivated to torture parents in front of their children and then murder them? How does one cultivate a desire for murder, rape against young women gathered in a party? These are the root and fruits of radical Islam, of Hamas. in kindergarten and schools, the Palestinian education system cultivated hatred and a barbaric desire to murder Jews and infidels, fueled by a combination of anti-Semite tropes and religious fanaticism. The perfect example of this indoctrination we saw in a conversation between one of Hamas terrorists and his father on October 7. I quote, "Hey father, I am calling from Kibbutz Miflasim. Open my WhatsApp and see all the dead. See how many I killed with my own hands. Your son killed Jews. Father, I'm talking to you from the phone of a Jewish woman. I killed her and her husband. I killed them with my own hands. Father, 10 with my own hands. Let me speak to Mom." As we stand here today, Hamas continues to hold our young men and women in its tunnels under Rafah. One of them is Noah Argamani, a young student who gained fame due to a video where she's seen abducted on a Hamas motorcycle while crying out in pain. Entire family, Yarden, Shiri, and their 2 young boys, Kfir and Ariel Bivas, are being held captive at this very moment. I implore you to not forget these innocent people. I urge you to not forget how this war started. A war we did not seek. A war that we have no choice but to fight and win for the sake of our children and for the sake of the free world. Unfortunately, the current Prime Minister of Spain, Sanchez, believes that the Palestinians should be a word for their massacre, that this is the time to give them a state. And it is important to highlight some crucial facts about the Palestinian Authority. Not a single senior official of the Palestinian Authority has condemned the barbaric massacre of Hamas. Not a single one. On the contrary, many Palestinian senior officials have expressed support for the massacre. Jibril Rajoub said it was a natural response. Fatah official says, inshallah, we will see more massacres. And other Fatah member says, we are in euphoria. There is an atmosphere of immense joy. This is the Palestinian Authority. But the Palestinian Authority goes beyond rhetoric. It transfers huge payments to the prisoners who they call martyrs. Billions of shekels. Pay for slay. Schools of the Palestinian Authority continue to indoctrinate generations of youth with anti-Semite hatred. A survey by the Palestinian Research Institute conducted a month after October 7 found that 94% of Palestinians felt immense pride in the October 7th attack. It takes a village to raise a child. And at the same extent, it takes a village to raise rapists and murderers. Dear Santiago, a few months ago, you came to Israel to show solidarity. You walk among the burned houses of Nir Oz, Kfar Aza and Be'eri, witnessing the children's abandoned bicycles and toys. You looked at this evil directly, and unlike others, you didn't do this for a photo op or to check a box. Unlike others, your good heart led you to align yourself with the state of Israel rather than Hamas and Iran. Thank you, Abascal. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for standing with the truth, with goodness, on behalf of the citizens of Israel and the Israeli government. I want to thank you. You understood very well that this war is not just about the future of Gaza or the state of Israel or even the Middle East. This is an existential battle for the future of our civilization against radical Islam, the future of Western civilization, the future of humanity. The sword of radical Islam is already being raised over Europe. In the UK, cities are falling into the hands of Islamists who are openly stating that their goal is to apply Sharia law across the Great Britain and the entire European continent. The influx of immigration from Islamic countries is not marked by their desire to integrate into the host countries, but by segregation in ghettos that are often become hotbeds of religious fanaticism with a clear, violent imperialist ambition. Initially, this violence endangers those who enter these closed neighborhoods, and many times police never comes in. But the threat gradually spreads outward. When the community becomes big enough, it breaks out. We are seeing huge rallies in major cities throughout the US, Europe, waving the flags of terrorist groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas. The danger posed by radical Islam worsens sevenfold when it meets a civilization that has lost faith in itself. In 2017, Douglas Murray described in his book, The Strange Death of Europe, even the mass movement of millions of people into Europe would not sound such a final note for the continent, were it not for the fact that at the same time, Europe lost faith in its belief, tradition, and legitimacy. The reckless immigration policy arises from a distorted perception of moral and cultural equivalence, as if your noble culture is equivalent to ISIS. It is not. It arises from Europe's diminishing faith in its traditional Judeo-Christian value system, family, community values, and waning appreciation in the importance of nationalism. The progressive communist left rejects the idea of nation-states and thus also rejects the concept of borders. It rejects the idea of objective truth, and thus facts have lost all value. It rejects the notion of humanity being created in God's image, and thus has lost the ability to distinguish between good and evil. And as we have seen, it has no ethical difficulty to making alliances with evil forces, with Iran and Hamas. VOX is a political force that is not afraid to talk about this danger. And only those who are able to identify and acknowledge the existence of danger are able to confront it. This confrontation begins with rejection of the idea of multiculturalism, which has been a total failure and brought this continent to the brink of existential danger. It also means rejecting political correctness, which paralyzes any possibility of a serious discussion based on facts. The future of the West hinges on courageous nations willing to swim against the tide and recultivate the values of Judeo-Christian civilization and brought to the world: the importance of tradition, the sanctity of the family, and the vitality of a robust community. It depends on education that fosters an appreciation with the past in order to comprehend the present and shape the future. A week ago, we learned through the world of culture and music that unlike the current Spanish government, the Spanish people possess common sense, and they give us 12 points for our Eurovision song. The silent majority has spoken. The final chapter in the relationship between Spain and Israel is yet to be written. From the courageous leadership and positive spirit that is right here, a bridge of true friendship will be constructed, a friendship that will serve a historical correction of past chapters filled with grief and sorrow that our small nation has experienced on this soil many, many years ago. It is a friendship, and on a personal level, it is a true friendship, grounded in values, rooted in faith, in a belief in truth, and the distinction between good and evil, in the power of free choice and the responsibility that accompanies it. It is grounded in the importance of family, parents, education, community. From these values springs the faith of a nation in its unique language, culture, heritage, a faith that the beauty of this world arises not from the attempts to flatter and assimilate, but rather from the distinctive shades that each nation contributes. ¡Viva España! ¡Amichai Chai! ¡Ganamos juntos! Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Polonia ha sido durante años un espejo donde mirarnos. Un ejemplo para todos
a
los
mirror
partidos
for
patrióticos
us,
europeos.
for all
Y lo ha sido
patriotic
gracias a
European
valientes
parties,
como él,
thanks
que han
to
plantado
brave
cara
people like
al
him,
ideológico
who stood
de
up
izquierda,
against
primer
the
ministro de
steamroller
España
of the
desde el
left,
año
the first
2017
Prime Minister of
a
Poland
2023.
from
Hoy nos
2017 to
saluda desde
2023,
Varsovia,
from
Mateusz
Warsaw,
Morawiecki.
Mateusz Morawiecki. Mateusz Morawiecki.
Szanowni Państwo, drodzy przyjaciele, na samym początku chciałbym Was pozdrowić i wyrazić żal, że nie mogę być z Wami tu, w Madrycie. As you could hear, I started in Polish. I greeted you and apologized that unfortunately I could not join you in Madrid today. Why did I start in my mother tongue? Not because I wanted to fool you. I started in Polish because today some people forget that English is not the only language and Brussels is not the only capital. Some people forget that Europe is first and foremost a union of nations and not the wasteland of bureaucrats. That is why today a voice is coming from Spain, from Poland, but also from many countries in Europe. Europe must be a land of new hope, a homeland of the future. Europe must be a leader. Unfortunately, the world has once again become a dangerous place. We are all deeply concerned about recent assassination attempt on the Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico. Once again, we must stand up for Europe. We must stand one and for the other. In 1795, Poland, my beloved homeland, was partitioned by three aggressors, Russia, Prussia and Austria. Back then, the Spanish diplomat Don Domingo Iriarte was one of the last foreign diplomats to stay in Warsaw for the longest time. Don Domingo Iriarte teaches us a lesson. What we are observing today is essentially the partition of Europe. We in Poland know that Russia will not stop at Ukraine. We know that Russian aggression is a threat to the European order. Today, Europe faces many threats, but we have one existential enemy. Yes, Russia is the nemesis of Europe. Therefore, today, conservatism must become a stabilizing force. We are the ones who must become a stabilizing force. It is up to us to ensure that Europe, as the heritage we love, survives. Thank you.
Desde Francia, participó en la Cumbre de Madrid del año 2022.
From France, participating in the Madrid summit in 2022, the first ones to report the consequences of the Islamization in their countries, advocate for the safety and security of French people, the candidate for the national rally, Marine Le Pen.
Mesdames et Messieurs, chers amis patriotes d'Espagne, merci.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear Spanish patriots, thank you for your invitation, for your welcome. Your VOX party and your president, my dear Santiago Abascal, with whom we are in contact for a long time, embody the Spanish patriotic movement that I know I can count on at the European level to revive Europe. Indeed, Europe, the real Europe, the Europe of freedom and of peoples, the Europe of sovereignty and of states, the Europe of identity and of nations needs our combined forces, because the European Union has done it a great deal of harm for decades. In this common political struggle, I come to tell you how important the friendship between our two countries, the fraternity between our two parties, the solidarity between members of parliament are for our recovery project. And allow me to send you the greetings of millions of French patriots and to assure you that you can count on their friendship and support. Together, we are in the home stretch to make the 9th of June a day of liberation and hope. We have 3 weeks left to convince our respective compatriots to go out and vote, so that Jordan Bardella and Jorge Buxade arrive with the largest possible delegation in Brussels. The promoters of the European Union, led by the Macron-von der Leyen duo, are never satisfied. And now they want to lead our continent to a European quasi-merger, a forced march towards a centralized European superstate. And this time, and without setting a precedent, they are doing it in the open. It is all to be found in the Verhofstadt report adopted by the European Parliament by just a few votes last November, which talks in particular about the end of the right of veto. The more they build an integrated European Union, the worse their results are. It is difficult not to mention the issue of immigration at the moment. Whole areas of my country, France, are in a situation of submerged migration and are no longer under state control. They are often referred to as lawless areas. In reality, however, they are areas governed by different laws from those in France. The situation of migrant separatism, which also exists in Britain, Belgium, and Sweden, with growing insecurity, and the constant threat of unrest threatens the whole of Europe. And what is the European Union doing about it? It does nothing. Worse still, it organizes everything with the infamous Asylum and Immigration Pact imposed on our peoples by technocrats who are far removed from the daily lives of our fellow citizens. When I read your Algeciras manifesto, I could see a great convergence of views with the program advocated by Jordan Bardella in this campaign. And the European Union economic performance is just as bad. If we look back, the European Union has lagged behind the US economy to an unprecedented degree, and they dare to speak of a powerful Europe? In fact, they have failed in everything. Well, everything except in winning the freedom of the peoples of Europe. You do not want this vision. We do not want it. And I believe that a large part of the peoples of Europe do not want it either. The European Union wants to silence the people. We want a Europe that guarantees their freedom. The European Union dreams of the disappearance of the right of veto, which ensures that nations can defend their interests and want to interfere in the lives of our fellow citizens everywhere. What we want is a Europe with a freely agreed cooperation. The European Union wants to standardize the entire continent, whereas we want a Europe that guarantees the diversity of the cultures and identities of the European peoples. The European Union wants to promote Islamism and the woke movement, while we want a Europe that is proud of its ancient cultures and allows each people to defend its own identity. The European Union wants more and more immigration and the disappearance of borders, while we want a Europe that allows each country to choose who enters and who leaves its territory. And this is the sense of the Schengen reform that we advocate, to reserve freedom of movement to the citizens of the member countries, and only to them. Each country can, if it so wishes, welcome foreigners from outside Europe into its territory. And that is their right, but no country has a right to impose them on other nations. The European Union wants to organize the degrowth of energy, industry, and even agriculture. And we want a Europe that relies on science to meet the challenges of climate change, and a Europe that enables farmers to feed their fellow citizens and live from their work. So, you see that our Europe is a long way from its European Union. I would even go so far as to say that the European Union, as it exists today, is nothing more than a counterfeit. A bureaucracy disconnected from reality, which attacks our nations by stripping them of their prerogatives, and which regards our peoples with contempt as mere populations to be administered. And yet, in the brilliant and incomparable history of our continent, it is the nations and the unity that have made Europe, and not the other way around. It was the nations that made it discover the world And in your case, Spain is the new world. It is nations, and nations alone, that have made their civilization to spread to all continents. It is the nations that have given it its power. It was the nations that defeated the totalitarian empires for the freedom of our peoples. As you can see, dear friends, we have a shared vision of Europe, a vision that more and more Europeans are embracing. And soon, when I hope there will be many of us in the European Parliament, it will be time to start reorienting the European Union, following simple and universal principles. Europe must protect its peoples and nations. Europe must produce, and Europe must respect its peoples and nations. And behind our vision of Europe, we obviously have a vision of humanity. Not that of a disaffiliated and exclusively materialistic nomad, but that of a man attached to his family, his culture, his country, his language, and his civilization. And we also have a very clear vision of the sovereignty of nations. A few months ago, I proposed a declaration of peoples and nations similar to the Declaration of Human Rights. And I hope that we will get the European Parliament to vote for it, to solemnly recognize the intangible right of nations to respect sovereignty, identity, and historical continuity. And it is also true that even if we share this vision, we may have differences of appreciation between us, because our countries, despite being a common crucible, each have their own history, their own traditions, sometimes their own wounds, and their own economic interests. We're not looking for clones in Europe, but allies to defend the freedom of our nations. We reject the single model that the European Union wants to impose on us through blackmail and sanctions. And we do not intend to impose our national model on the other countries of Europe. In the end, we are the only ones who truly defend the motto of the European Union, united in diversity. Because for the political forces led by Macron and von der Leyen, we have become subjugated in uniformity. We are the defenders of Europe, and they are its destroyers. Our Europe is not 70 years old, but several thousand years old. It is not an artificial construct of cold and distant bureaucrats, but lives in our minds and in our hearts. It is not the result of an administrative regulation, but it flows through our veins and runs through the history of our families. It does not impose its presence through tricks or coercion, but it is the fruit of freedom, fraternity, and love for what we have in common. Dear friends, this battle that we are fighting, that you are fighting, is a magnificent battle. It is a battle we fight out of devotion to those who have gone before us, out of love for those around us, out of respect for those who will follow us. In Spain, France, and the rest of Europe, let us make the 9th of June the first day when Europe comes alive. See you on 9th June. Long live Vox, long live Spain, long live France, and long live the real Europe.
Referential figure in the defense of liberty, freedoms, and future of Europe. He fought against all the bureaucrats in Europe to defend his nation, his own, his roots, his culture. And he has worked for the European patriots from Budapest, Viktor Orban.
Kedves Santiago, kedves spanyol barátaink,
Estimado Santiago, dear Santiago, dear Spanish friends, we welcome you from Budapest. Before the European elections, we are in the front of an important battle. Brussels is waging a war, poisoning our children with gender propaganda, neglecting the agriculture and destroying our families. We can't allow that. Even if that wasn't enough, they sent the police because they didn't want to hear that we are talking about conservative values, Christian and patriotic values. That is the future of our Europe. There is nothing more to do in this situation. Dear Spanish friends, the patriots must take Brussels. We can always have, we can only have ourselves. We want to defend our borders. We can only have ourselves. If we want to have ourselves, we need to help our people to have children, to protect the Spanish agriculture so that they have a future. We need many fighters, many patriots across Europe. I think we've shown our value. Santiago Abascal and VOX members, you are committed fighters, especially when we're talking about safety, freedom, protection of Spaniards and families. Come on, Santiago, come on, VOX. Let's make Europe great again.
La mujer que ha transformado la política en Italia.
The woman who has transformed Italy, a hope for all Europeans, for all who are part of this family, a friend of VOX. She was part of many of our meetings. From Europe, the president of the Council of Ministers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni.
Buenos días, patriotas.
Good morning, patriots.
Querido Santiago, querido Jorge,
Dear Santiago, dear Jorge, dear VOX friends, dear Spanish patriots, once again, you have organized a wonderful event. At a time when people are further removed from politics and they prefer a virtual reality to real reality. It is passion, love for your own homeland and ideals. Those who make politics that are driven by these principles can achieve these kind of events. I want to greet all the numerous international guests, but particularly, I want to talk to the many affiliates and young people present, that you have been courageous because you have not been influenced by the mainstream thinking. You have decided that conservative values will be the pillars of your lives. You have chosen to fight for that you believe, because you are the only future that is possible for Europe. It is a tired continent, a subjected continent that thought that it could change its identity for ideology and for comfort, and now it is paying the price for its choices. But not everything is lost. When history knocks, people like us do not retreat. We have not done that so far, and we are not going to do that now. Dear Santiago, my friend, we started our common experience in the European Parliament, and our development has been very similar. From day one, they tried to despise us, to isolate us. They tried to divide us, and they ended up by strengthening us. They said that we will not make it, that we wanted to destroy Europe, that we would never be credible enough to be decisive. And in the meanwhile, they enjoy their certainties, their reassuring certainties, and while they did that, we have won space and credibility. And here we are together. Fratelli Italia is the first political party, and I have the honor of being the Prime Minister. And some have not accepted it. How is it possible that this has happened? I am the first Prime Minister of the cabinet, and I am a woman. In the meanwhile, VOX has become the third largest political party in Spain, a sound party in Spain, a party that has a great future ahead and will be decisive to change both Spain and Brussels. But we need to go on working hard together, because as usual, we do not want to receive any gifts, because we usually earn our results in the streets, in the field, in our continent that is experiencing great uncertainty and decline. Our continent needs us. The European left, the main cause of this decline, accuses us of destroying Europe. But lies are always good news, because evil lies needs to conceal something, and the left needs to conceal that it was them with their ideology and the lack of vision, the authors of the failure of the European Union, a bureaucratic giant that wants to control all aspects of our lives. We want and can build a different European Union, much better than the current one, able to concentrate their initiatives and their resources in the most important issues, the issues that can really offer added value, for example, defend the external borders instead of forcing their citizens to welcome masses of irregular immigrants against their own will. And I am particularly proud of the work that we have carried out in these past months, because this has led to a change of direction. No more open borders, new policies of cooperation with African countries, control of the frontier, of their frontiers, and the admission of regular immigrants, a standardization of asylum requests. Because, you know, pragmatic proposals always find consensus. In Italy, we had 62 less arrivals than last year, in the worst possible international situation in terms of stability, and with many illegal immigrants ready to sail for Europe. These are the results that we can achieve. We are able to change the majority in the next European Parliament. The European Union has to allow its companies to compete with the rest of the world. We all want strategic autonomy. We want to be independent, but we will never be independent if we see imposed on us certain criteria governing the market. The market has to be free. The suicidal policies that will impoverish us will prevent us from having our protection system. This is the madness of the Green Deal. We are conservatives and we love nature. But the difference between ourselves, yourselves and the rest, is that we want to protect nature with human beings inside nature. We do not think that human beings are harmful for nature. Environmental sustainability needs human activity, but they think that human beings are a danger for nature for the very reason of existing. And there are teachers that tell us that we do not have to have children because children pollute. That's the point we have reached, and the result of these hallucinations are seen every day. In these past years, the European Union has decided what we could or could not eat, renew our houses, without telling us where the money was, what car we could drive, what technology we could use in our companies. They use the alibi of the defense of nature to attack our freedom, and we need to refuse. We are going to defend our farmers, our fishermen, our manufacturers, our SMEs against this unprecedented attack. And we will do that to defend Europe because they have built Europe with their work effort, excellent products, whereas the ecologists thought how to propose the next absurd legislation from their comfort at home. We need to protect the history, the identity of Europe. We are going to continue to oppose all attempts to deny, to delete our cultural roots, beginning with our Christian roots, because it is a fact that convents, monasteries, were the first places of the European culture, and to diminish this means to deny the meaning of Europe as a civilization. We are not going to allow that. We are going to oppose to those who want to manage the family as a pillar of our society, those who want to reproduce the gender theory at school, those who want to promote inhuman practices like surrogate pregnancy, because no one will convince me that rich men to buy the bodies of poor women or choose their children as in a supermarket. This is obscure, it's dark. The European Parliament, they are proposing to make the surrogate pregnancy a crime, even if it is carried out abroad. And we are going to fight against those like the left, because they want to delete identities and they want to use Brussels to impose their globalist, nihilist agenda. People, and reducing people to mere consumers, where multiculturalism is one of the essential pillars of European integration. Dear friends, the European mandate 2019-2024 has been characterized by erroneous strategies and priorities. Other forces have reached anti-natural agreements with the left, like the Green Deal. We have fought, sometimes alone, for a different European Union, but today may be different. We are just before decisive elections, because for the first time the result of European elections may end up with these anti-natural negative majorities. We need to keep focused. We need to be realistic. It is the time of mobilization. It is the time of stepping out to the streets and looking our compatriots in the eyes and explain them what we want to do in the next 5 years. It is the time to higher the stakes. We need to fight until the last day of the electoral campaign, because no Europe is possible without the European conservatives. That's a fact. We are the driving force. We are the main players of the revival of our continent. Long live Italy. Long live Spain. Long live the European conservatives. Thank you very much to you all. Thank you. I can't see you. Santiago, where are you? Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Giorgia, for your friendship, for your support, for your leadership, for showing during all this time that Fratelli are really brothers. We are brothers between VOX and Fratelli for Italy. Thank you very much. I am told that the speakers are over and I have to talk, but seemingly we need the roar of the lion. Javier, the president of the Argentinian nation.
The leftists don't want to hear about him, and with the support of the Argentinian people, he became president. The president that will restore Argentina to the place it deserves. Let's welcome with a big applause the president of the Republic Argentina, Dr. Javier Milei. Long live freedom, damn it! Long live freedom, damn it! Long live freedom, damn it!
Hola a todos, yo soy el león.
Hello everyone, this is the lion saluting you. I am in the middle of the avenue. The left-handed are crying, they don't understand what we are doing. Open the light of the day, come on!
Okay. Para comenzar,
okay, to start with, let me thank the organizers of Europa Viva 24, VOX, and my dear friend Santiago Abascal for inviting me here today. On Friday, I presented my book, The Way of the Libertarian. I was telling that when I started out, that is of waging the cultural war, I was more alone than Adam on Mother's Day. In that context, one of the few who embraced me when everyone turned his back against me was my dear Santiago. So let me start today by thanking him publicly. Thank you, Santiago.
Mirá, Santiago, hasta dónde hemos llegado.
Mind you, Santiago, where we are and how much we still can do. I've been lecturing of my idea of the capitalism with ideas with people who do not always share what I say. Sometimes I lecture when there are people who hate what I say, as they feel offended by my criticism. It is the case of the Davos Forum. So I must say that, like when I went to the Mikel Institute at LA, Los Angeles, it is a pleasure to be amongst friends today. It's very nice to be in an audience sharing our ideas. That is part of the huge task of waging cultural war against those who want to impose a vision of the world that is immoral, but it's against the values that make the West great. It's true that 2 years are nothings, but some things have happened since the last time I was here with you all. When I came here 2 years ago, I was only a national deputy in Argentina with my VP, Vice President of the nation, facing the whole political system in Argentina by defending the ideas of freedom. Let me say that now I have a job that is more tricky, I should say. I never left aside my historical task, that is to be a humble disseminator of the ideas of freedom. I am convinced that today, more than ever, these ideas and values that took the humankind to its best are compromised, and they need to get rid of the threat of the poisonous socialism. Socialism is the ideology that looks selfless, but it hides the worst of the human condition: jealousy, hatred, resentment, inequality, and if needed, killing. As you shouldn't forget that the damn socialists killed 150 million human beings. Recently, in the conference held in an institute, I said that somehow Argentinians are prophets of an apocalyptic future that we've already lived, but the rest of the West is still facing. As if you look at the Argentinian history of the last 2 centuries, you will see a tragedy in 2 chapters: the rise and the fall, bearing witness of what can happen when you substitute the ideas of freedom for any sort of collectivist experiment. During the second half of the 19th century, the Argentinian rulers carved in stone the basic tenets of liberalism, that is defense of freedom, life and private property, and as a result, we saw the process of growth, economic growth, that was strongest in our history. In fact, Argentina was growing more than the equivalent of the current Chinese growth rates. In only 35 years, we became a global world power, and we were the first nation in human history to do away with illiteracy. Our GDP was higher than the addition of Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay together. We were the first world power in terms of GDP per capita. A peripheral country, unknown to the rest of the world. We were the Mecca of the West, and we received millions of immigrants that saw the chance of a better life in Argentina. Most of them were Spaniards. Therefore, the brotherhood of our 2 peoples. But in some point in the history of the 20th century, the rulers fell in love with the state, neglected the ideas of freedom, and indoctrinated about social justice, attempting against freedom and the property of individuals. That's when the century of humiliation started, 100 years of decadence, where we broke once and again all the basic rules of economy to sustain the will of politicians to spend the money we don't have, under the pretext that when there is an idea, a right is born, we lived permanently with tax deficits, with permanent growth of public expenditure, and a situation that had to be financed, firstly, immoral politicians finance it with debt, which is basically paying the bills party by our children, our children's children, and future generations. Of course, when the funding runs out, they resort to the machine of printing dollars. And that is how Argentina has taken 13 zeros to the currency, have had to hyperinflation, and they left a disastrous situation with inflation by stealing from us all the time. And when they ran out of alternatives, they increased taxes so that the country stops being competitive. As a result of such measures, we saw how our citizens started to become poorer systematically until falling into the rank 150 of GDP per capita in the world, with a tenfold increase in poverty in the last 100 years. And furthermore, Argentina, which produces food for 100 million human beings, has a tax burden in the agricultural sector of 70%. So the damn state takes the food of 280 million human beings, and 5 million of Argentinians don't have food to eat. Enough socialism, enough misery. And that is why when I look at Europe today and the US, I see gradually how we see small signals of the tragic path we went down in Argentina. On the other side of history, while socialism was destroying Argentina, capitalism of free market was saving the world, literally. You only need to look at the global history of the last 250 years, especially the last 100 years, to show this. Until the 1800, the GDP per capita in the world was kept constant. But in the 19th century, after the Industrial Revolution, the GDP per capita not only increased, but also did it exponentially, but with a 20-fold increase, with a boom in health, bringing out of poverty 90% of the world's population, even though when the population was multiplied eightfold. Let it sink in for the DM abortion lovers. This means that the further capitalism grows, the further the wealth growth, increasingly fast. Therefore, while in the 19th century the growth rate per global capita was 0.6%, during 1950 and the 2000s, the growth rate was 2.1%. If we correct that with the underestimation of a statistic, we will be talking about above 3.9%. So, capitalism of free market has been the solution for the West. That is not by chance that countries which are free grow twice as much as those which are oppressed, and their GDP per capita is 12 times bigger than if you're an oppressed country. And therefore, let's say that not just that, but those countries which are poor If you are poor in a capitalist country, your average income is higher in the lowest decile, and 90% of the population of those oppressed countries are under the threshold of poor people in capitalist countries. So this goes to show, despite of the lies of the left, that free markets create prosperity for everyone, not just for the few. There are no cases in the history of mankind which has embraced liberty, freedom, which has not seen growth. On the other side, socialism, when implemented in Argentina and across the world, has been an economic failure, social failure, cultural failure, and in many occasions, a failure imposed on huge amounts of corpses and names. This is essential to understand a proper comprehension of the aberration that socialism is, as is an ideology that goes against the very nature of humankind, and it leads to slavery or death. There is no further destiny when opening the door to socialism, that is inviting death to come in. But this is obvious, but it's more important than ever to say this. In the last few decades, the global elites were kidnapped by socialist promises through ideas, speeches, and values that had filtered in the common sense of our societies, fostered by supranational organisms, NGOs, educational institutions, and the industry of entertainment and the media. Narratives which say that capitalism is bad because it's individualist and collectivism is good as it is selfless, and therefore they advocate for social justice. They prosecute the individuals so that they bend into moral in gender-related issues, racial issues, environmental issues that sometimes lead to a direct attempt against the freedom and the capacity of businesses to create wealth, and also affecting human lives. It seems that they don't understand that social justice is always unfair, as it means stealing and equal treating. And every attempt by politicians to look good is bad for the creation of wealth and for the whole of society. They don't realize, or they don't care, that the cost of sustaining this past means subverting all the values that turned Western civilization in the spearhead of human progress, as at the end of the day they are being led by the lowest human passions, jealousy, resent, which make it impossible for them to think properly. Furthermore, they are so blind that they project their miseries on the others. And that is why, to all those who think that they are saving the world with the present state, with high taxes, with gender quotas and punishing business people, I tell them, you know what's best for workers? That they have a free agreement with their own employers. You know what's best for women? To stop treating them as victims that need special care. I ask, socialists, do they think inferior people to provide them with privileges? I ask the socialists, is not enough to be equal before the law? You know what's best for the planet? To live that the market finds the best solutions, as it always has done. What's best for children? A mother and a father that knows them much better than any other bureaucrat. And you know how you achieve this? By removing the state which parasites on people so that citizens can be free. By leaving them to associate freely, to choose what they produce, who do they employ, where they study, what they sell, what they buy, and what they do with the result of their own work. All in all, the world is saved not by running behind an agenda led by two bureaucrats, but reducing the state so that we make society bigger. We must destroy this idea that is a parasite, saying that the task of the state, that is of the bureaucrat, is to control every aspect of citizens' lives. The idea that politicians must look after people from their birth to the death. That was never the task of the state. Its task is to defend life, freedom, and private property of individuals. But the global elites don't realize how destructive it can be to implement the ideas of socialism, as it's far from them. They don't know which society it can lead to, and which sort of people holding on to power can create plenty of abuses. Well, even when they have a corrupt wife taking 5 days off to think about it. That is why I must show you how sinister and disastrous socialism is, as we saw it firsthand. We suffer it every day, as Argentina is infected with socialism with many decades, or I should say it was. Socialism leads to poverty and death. If you say otherwise, you are ignorant or a liar. As it leads to death, it will never, we can never ever give in anything. We cannot give 1 inch for the left-handed, and even when they look that they are right, because they are never right. When we leave one door open, they will attack us from a higher ground. They use the weakest, those who've inherited wealth without knowing what is sacrifice, those who are affected by guilt, and they want to use us all to solve their own issues. But we are not weak. We earned what we have. We firmly believe in what we say. It has taken us sweat and blood, and no one will stop us. It doesn't matter what they do, what they say, or how they attack us. Let me tell you, I don't care a fig what the left-handed think. All in all, there is nothing that they can do to stop the history of events. In the light of things that I usually say, of the discussions I am in, sometimes I receive criticism from various agents of the establishment, and especially from the journalists. We removed the official time for official media. It looks like I should look for a job. But don't worry, they are left-handed. I don't care about that business, that media business. I am told, but now you're a head of a state. How can you say such things? How can you speak like that about your opponents, about other international politicians? And I tell them that the cultural war is not something that you choose or live, but rather a commitment that you must do. Everyone who is committed with the cause of freedom will defend our ideas from the place that we must take. That is a simple economist holding conferences like yours truly until a few years ago, or a president as I must be now. In any case, now that I am president, my responsibility for waging the cultural war is even bigger, as what I do and say has a more important effects. And waging this war is not just morally correct, but also it is needed from the perspective of government for the success of any liberal or libertarian governmental program, so that our policies are long-lasting and citizens can choose their own freedom and they are not trampled again by socialists. Furthermore, it's important to speak out, as our opponents always have an edge. They have guys in all levels of states, in social organizations. They have the companies living off the state and the supranational organisms, the NGOs, the media, and the industry of entertainment, in my case, in my country, even the control over football. In that sense, we must recognize they did an excellent job in terms of what you could call the construction of a truly global hegemony. If we believe in life, property, freedom, and we don't do anything, we are condemned. If we believe in the values that turned the West in the most prosperous civilization, we don't do, we are damned. And that is why everyone who is here, Spanish citizens, Argentinians, presidents, thinkers, entrepreneurs, everyone who believes in freedom must stand up and say, enough! Enough to hatred, to resent, to jealousy that comes with socialism. Enough of self-flagellation and guilt in the West and trying to pretend that we are in a glass world where nobody feels offended. Enough of intruding every single aspect of our life as individuals. Let's restore the big values of the West. Let's defend life, freedom and property.
Ya estamos a 5 meses que asumí como presidente de la República
It's been
Argentina
5
el 10 de
months
diciembre.
since I became president on December 10th, and I can say proudly that we are meeting our promise to Argentinians. We inherited an economy on the brink of hyperinflation, with 15 points of tax deficit, with plenty of money issue ends, with oppressed prices and with very high interest rates. And despite all of that, we are turning things around. With a huge effort from all Argentinians, but gradually we are turning things around. We've reduced inflation month by month until we reach the 1 digit per month inflation, and we've reduced the interest rate without a jump in the inflation or the exchange rate. We are seeing the biggest fiscal adjustment in the whole history of humankind, and we have the same support as December 10th, as opposed to what the left-handed think.
Por eso llora la izquierda local e internacional.
And that is why the international and local left whines. They think it's impossible and we do it. They broke everything with their ideas and we fix it with work, with the ideas and values which are right, because all the ideas, values and theories that they preach about have failed, and everything that they are afraid of is starting to be successful.
And
also, as we are showing the world that even in the worst of hardship, when we have the worst financial heritage, even when we are the government with the lowest institutional power, even when we have all the media and powers against us, when we speak the truth, when we have conviction, we can persevere and become triumphant. As sooner or later, the truth always prevails. Freedom always prevails. Life always prevails over death. And the good always prevails over the bad. For all these reasons, let me tell you that I am optimistic. Every time we see more and more peoples rising up against the socialist mandate, as unlike socialists, we trust in citizens. We don't think we must treat them like children in kindergarten. We trust in their creativity, in the criteria to guide in freedom their children in the family. We trust in the capability of men and women in forging their own destiny, leading to higher benefit for the whole of the society. And this trust we have in citizens, sooner or later, comes back to us. As to have trust, you need to receive trust. And we have an agreement with society. As I always say, it is better to speak an uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie. For all these reasons, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to fail you. That is my commitment with you. I will lead by example, showing the world that a government with our ideas can be successful, and the successes of our government will be an example of the capitalism of the free market. But it won't be a miracle, but rather the consequences of the right ideas, as freedom is the only possible way towards prosperity. And for this reason, I tell you, let's save Western from its decadence. We still have time to choose whether we want to persist in the path of failure or to go back down the path of freedom. Finally, let me share a quote for one very important thinker, Ludwig von Mises, showing the impossibility of socialism back in 1922 with his treaty, Socialism. Socialism is an alternative to capitalism, as cyanide is an alternative to water. And as Mises was a person with a huge vision, and he understood the caliber of the challenge, he had a motto: "Tu no sedes malis, sed contra audientem itur." In Latin, you won't be before evil, but you face it with bravery. Let's not give in to socialism. Let's face it with more bravery.
Naturalmente, parece una tarea titánica.
It seems that it is a titanic task, that we are just a few. But we have nothing to be afraid of, as victory on the battlefield does not depend on the amount of soldiers, but on the strength coming from the heaven. Long live freedom, damn it! Long live freedom, damn it! Long live freedom, damn it! Thank you very much. Thank you, Santiago. Thank you, VOX. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
En 2018 llenó este pabellón contra todo pronóstico y con todos en su contra.
This palace against all forecasts, many years and many efforts devoted to build an alternative. He filled this place against all expectations. 6 years later, VOX is consolidated as the third national political force. It is part of 4 regional governments, and it grows election after election. VOX has become a reference for all patriots everywhere in the world. Let's welcome on stage the president of VOX, Santiago Abascal.
¡Viva España!
Long live Spain! Long live Europe.
¡Viva el mundo libre!
Long live the free world.
Todos los que luchan
Long live all those who fight to protect it or recover it.
Debería dar la bienvenida al día
I
24,
should
pero creo que lo que me toca es dar la despedida. Y a Roger,
thank you, Roger, Matt, Mercedes, for your spectacular work in the United States. That is a great inspiration everywhere in the world. And we wish you luck, all the luck you deserve to go back to the change that has been truncated in the United States. Thank you very much, José Antonio Kast, because you are fighting those who wanted to end the nation of Chile and wanted to rewrite its and congratulations for your success in the elections and for being able to picture cultural bipartidarism in Portugal. Thank you, Amichai, Chikli, Minister of the Diaspora in Israel, because you are the vanguard of civilization facing barbarians, and we will always have us with you. Thank you, dear Mateusz, for being with us from a distance in this occasion, but for so long. Thank you for continuing in this fight, because Poland deserves it and because Europe needs you. Thank you to the Prime Minister Orban, who hasn't been able to be physically here, our friend Viktor, that helps us with his resistance, his example, and his commitment to drive the resistance of patriots. And thank you, Marine, for being the great hope for France. We are sure that very soon, as the President of the French Republic, France will come back. Thank you for being the leader of this reaction in France, and thank you to the President Milei, our bright star. Thank you, dear Javier, for how startled are all the left people in Europe, because you have understood the importance of the cultural battle. And thank you to the Prime Minister of Italy, our friend Giorgia, for showing it is possible. Thank you for your friendship. We have such good friends, and we are so happy to hear so many different languages, different accents, different movements and parties that fight in the face of the same threats. All those that have spoken before have talked about these threats. And this is why we are ready to fight together, because we all fight for the same sovereignty, because our first duty is to our compatriots. But we know that we cannot do this alone, because the others, the bads, do not do it alone. And in the face of globalism that attacks sovereignty and their criminal socialist soul, we need to respond with a global alliance, with common sense, security and freedom. Because we share the threat, and this leads us to solidarity. But we also share hope in the change, and this has to lead us to brotherhood, to working together until we defeat these policies that only want the ruin of our people. These policies that we've seen in Spain for too long, we've seen and we suffer them. a submissive socialist government that is sequestered and governed by all enemies of our country, those who want to break it from inside and invade it from the outside. Every day they harm the national unity, or directly they put their hand in the pockets of our workers. One day after the other, every day, one day, they close an electrical thermal station and the taxes go up. One part of Spain is thirsty, the other part is flooded by the opposed dams and reservoirs, and the next day they approve hundreds of millions to pay their own water transfers to Morocco. They transvestite one day because José Antonio, they transvestite as defenders of democracy, and that same night, they are sleeping with all narco-communist regimes in Latin America associated to the cartel of Puebla. One day, they profanate tombs, they desecrate tombs, they take pictures of themselves with the corpses of victims, as if they enjoyed old resentments, old wars, and they promote an amnesty act for these separatists and independentists today, because we need to forgive all that. The first day when Sanchez arrived for a motion of censure to fight corruption, and a short time ago, they started to whine miserably, and he asked for 5 days rest because we are demanding an explanation of the corruption of the ministers and even the president's wife. One day, they cry for the humanitarian tragedy for a boat in the Mediterranean. But the next day, they give more subsidies to the NGOs that cooperate with the mafias, that traffic with people. They are responsible for these tragedies. They are guilty of these deaths in the Mediterranean. They are guilty to promise false hope to millions of people in the world that aren't able to offer our children, our families, these left people, these Reds, these socialists, and this right wing that is so coward. They are responsible for that. And then, some other day, they dress in purple, which I guess is the international color of the feminist supremacy. And they talk very concerned about the security of women, and then they promote an act that puts in the street hundreds of rapists, and rapes have been multiplied 3 times in Spain because they have opened their prisons. One day they say that the economy is a rocket, is rocketing up, but every day Spaniards have less and less purchasing power. We have the highest unemployment in Europe, and our workers aren't able to make ends meet. One day, they launch law enforcement against their own people, against farmers, but against peaceful demonstrators. And next day, they leave these policemen and Guardia Civil in front of the narco mafia that are more and more powerful in the south of Spain. And after that, we see the criminals in large boats laughing while they murdered this law enforcement in cold blood in a very small boat that had been supplied by the Ministry of the Interior Affairs. They have left alone our military, our police agents, our police officers, whose salaries are miserly. They do not give them material resources to protect themselves and protect us all. One day they say, one plan for the construction of houses, but they have not constructed not one single house. They haven't been able to inaugurate social housing. They do nothing. They say they are going to do it. They are going to build social housing. Not one they have built, but they tell young people to share flats, to share cars, and share even girlfriends or boyfriends. Here, those who have found a house or even a villa are the squatters. Every day, every month, until we finish with this government. How is it possible that they are still there? How haven't we been able to shame them, remembering all the things that they have done? That's the question. They will say that it is a literal proposal and we are going to have headlines because they don't understand the Spanish language. You know why? You know why they are still in power? Because we have this coward left-wing party that pretends to oppose these things, but then the next day they approve it in a manner or another, right, that say they are against the government, but then they beg for any pact in the regions. Because this coward right, this fraudulent right, they cheat on the Spaniards and say, we defend what they do not defend, and they attack VOX with all their resources, with the fear of someone who wants to conceal something at any price. This is what is happening in Spain. What is it they want to hide? Very simple. They want to hide that the Popular Party, the Socialist Party, are partners in Brussels. They form alliances in Brussels. Yes, 90% of the regulations, directives, and other legislation imposed on Spain are voted together by the Socialist Party and the Popular Party. They defend the same. They are friends in the 2030 agenda and the Green Deal that is going to destroy our agriculture. They go together in many crazy things, and they are partners when they divide the number of judges, commissions, and the media. One day and another day, and this is the terrible reality. For years, there has been no opposition, no alternative, only continuity and a drama, a political drama, an in fact political drama. Dear friends, we haven't reached this point just about the socialist government. The socialist government has reached this point because the coward right shares the same globalist agenda, and they pretend they are enemies, but they are not. They agree. to forbid, because they love forbidding. They have forbidden many kids in Spain to study in Spanish, in our national language, a universal language that is spoken by hundreds of millions of people in the world. It is an aberration. It is difficult to explain, difficult for our international allies to believe this. There are kids in Spain that cannot study in Spanish, and this is what they have done. The separatists and the Socialist Party and the coward right and fraudulent right, they have banned many things that parents may decide about the moral education of their children, and this is why they need to take the parental authority from their parents in order to destroy the innocence of the children, sexualizing them even before they have their own reasoning. You know what Irene Montero said, the minister, before she was expelled from the government? Sexuality of children had to be respected, and children had to decide freely. A kid can decide on his or her own sexuality, but this is preposterous. But not only the socialists, but the other day the Popular Party in Almeria, in cooperation with Pedro Sánchez, hung a poster with a picture of a child saying, if he says no, it's aggression. And below, 70% of assaults happen in the family environment. So if the child says, yes, this is not a sexual assault, but how can we leave our children with these despicable people that want to rob the innocence of our children? Eduardo, you know this very well. Verástegui, that are fighting for the protection of children against those who traffic with them to destroy their lives, their physical health, their innocence.
Hacen todo esto para adoctrinarles en sus fanatismos ideológicos.
To indoctrinate them in their fanaticism, environmental or historical fanaticism. If I read the school texts of my children with this 2030 agenda, all kinds of ideology, and showing hate against the faith of our parents, of our foreparents, our own civilization, because they are obsessed with destroying our self-esteem, our national self-esteem, this patriotism, this pride that makes us feel scenarios like this one, that will lead us to victory and to expelling all the socialists and all these fraudulent parties.
Podríamos decir que su modelo educativo se parece al nazi.
We could say that the educational model is similar to the Nazi one, but not only that, it's becoming identical in universities with disgusting anti-Semitism, which is the pretext for the big European tragedies. We see ministers of the government with the same mottos as the wild terrorists of Hamas, those who applaud Pedro Sánchez. That totalitarian education is the one that they propose. They want for the new generations, our children and their children. And that is why I think we see so many young people in these events, like in any VOX rally. They know that opposing socialism is a deep act of being rebellious, and it's an act of self-defense. They are fed up. They had the future stolen from them, and they are fed up of seeing how with the money that they steal from their parents, they pay everyone who hates their freedom, their family, their homeland, their future. But we won't wage a generational fight. We know that the grandparents are also here, the grandparents to these young people, who, unlike what the woke think, they are not just concerned about their pensions. With their effort, they brought Spain forward. And now they see it's bankrupt, that the heritage, that the legacy for the children is vanishing, and the grandparents want for the grandchildren the same opportunities that they enjoyed years ago. The opportunity to work, to have a house, and to create a family. As they also forbidden prosperity. They are stealing from Spaniards the fruit of their work so that they can splash money about for the corruption, for the shady dealings. They do that through high taxes, but they are also stealing the possibility to create wealth. And that is through the alliance of the People's Party and the Socialist Party in Brussels. They've declared war against our agriculture, our industry, and our national economy and industry, while they bend into China and to Morocco. They are chasing, prosecuting freelancers and SMEs, while they bend in to the wishes of multimillionaire speculators, which dream of a world where they can fly anywhere with a private jet, from forbidding us to eat proper meat, to prohibiting us to access the center of our cities, and only allowing the rich people to access with their fancy e-vehicles. They are stealing from workers to pay the illegal migration mafias, collapsing social services, which has destroyed social coexistence in our neighborhoods. Some people don't see it, as they are very comfortable, far away from the problems, and they don't report that. Or they try, and somebody who knows this very well is Ignacio Garriga. Ignacio Garriga, our General Secretary in Catalonia, who in the Catalonian government can't tell the truth. He can say that massive illegal immigration brings with massive crime, and they switch off his mic. He's been called a racist. They don't know shame. If you're gay and you're from VOX, you're homophobic. And they called him a racist. How can Spaniards care about the color of our skin if we allowed for the biggest twinning in the history of humankind, based on the virtues and values of humankind? They are the racist ones. With the same foundational spirit, we welcome all the migrants that abide by the rules, those who are here to integrate, those who don't want to impose their culture and religion, especially if they come from the twin nations of Hispanic America. But that has nothing to do with the massive invasion that we are suffering. And we need to keep on saying it, dear Ignacio, as we will make our voices heard, even if they switch off our mics. Let's say yes. Massive illegal immigration brings massive criminality, insecurity, and it's a business for slave traffickers, NGOs, which are paid with the taxes of Spaniards. And yes, massive illegal immigration expand Islamic fundamentalism, compromising our lives. And it compromises women. And yes, it destroys public services. And yes, it sinks salaries. And yes, it discriminates Spaniards when accessing public subsidies. And of course, massive illegal immigration destroys the health care that we pay as Spaniards. with generations of Spaniards, with decades of efforts and hard work. And this is healthcare given away to the whole universe, and that is literally. And yes, this immigration destroys our identity and our history. And yes, with all that and with much more, this immigration is linked, and that is fostered by the coward right and the socialists. But they want to hide the truth, that people don't realize, because if people realize, they wouldn't be able to legalize suddenly another 500,000 illegal immigrants, after they did some weeks ago with a common vote in the Congress, all of them, from the coward right to the party of terrorists, and that was applauded by the immigration mafias, which will increase their fees and therefore their benefits. So they have all taken on the religion of substitution, that is the woke nightmare, the Agenda 2030, and any other globalist project. All but one, VOX. How often do we say there is only VOX left? But it doesn't mean that we are alone. That is what they wish, those who've been wishing to kill us for 5 years, and those who are trumpeting our death. We are not dead, and we are not alone. We are alive and kicking. And we are well accompanied by you and by international allies. As we saw today, we heard voices which are a common chorus together with us from both sides of the Atlantic, advocating for a different future where you are the owner of your future and you have the reins of your life. And I am confident that on June the 9th, in the European elections, they will hear us loud and clear. We will say there is another Europe that is possible. But also, let me tell you loud and clear that everyone who firmly believes in this must have the moral obligation of cooperating amongst us. We must build together a Europe which respects sovereignty of nations and the right to choose their future. A Europe that protects their borders, which are the walls of our houses. Without borders, there is no way to protect our liberties, our safety, and our prosperity. A Europe which protects their wealth, exploiting their own resources so that it's not dependent on hostile powers, so that it is not suicidal by embracing a Green Deal that is criminal to our people. A Europe which protects the family as essential foundation of our society, and thus protecting the lives from the very birth until the death. A Europe that kicks out everyone who wants to subject our Europe with fanaticisms, new or old. We don't care if they come off the coasts or if they come with private jets. We're talking about a big Europe, a safe, prosperous and free Europe. I am sure that with your support, on June the 10th, they will hear us in Brussels, and our voice will be the strongest voice. Long live the Europe of nations, long live Spain.
Como acostumbramos en los actos de Vox, nos ponemos en pie para escuchar nuestro
himno nacional. Stand up for the Spanish anthem. Please stand up for the Spanish anthem.